when it comes to the NFL this season, most of us are going to have to be watching this thing from afar with all the safety protocols put in place. And when it comes to being able to go into a team facility, you either are a staffer or you're the guy who is in this interview, and it's not me talking. It's the guy named Seth Shapiro, an executive producer. He's got a great company in Diesel. Follow him on Twitter at Seth_Shap. He was just able to do this great piece with NFL Network, touring everyone through the LA Rams facility with Steve Weish, getting all of the different protocols in place. We got to see that visually, which was a fantastic job on Seth's part. And I'm fascinated, Seth,
I
because
appreciate that intro. I love that intro.
yeah, man.
And
And
the yellow mic flag, We love the yellow mic flag.
I know how jealous you are.
Yeah, it's amazing. We
I
love
do
that yellow
know
mic
that.
flag. I'm honored to be on this
Oh,
on this
stop
interview.
it. Stop it. Stop it. It's the other way around. I can't
Yes,
tell you
sir.
how many different people I had to talk to finally convince you to come on this little bozo's little podcast. So I appreciate you coming on.
Nah. You get all the big yes. Who am I
Oh,
kidding?
well, you are one of the best we've had. And what I'm fascinated about in bringing you on, Seth, and my name is Bryan, I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley, is not only what it was like touring through an NFL team facility in this COVID era, but also how you put together this piece from a production standpoint and all the decisions that went into what you pick as far as the correct sound bites and the different video you end up using. Because from the piece I saw, Seth, it was about what, an 8-minute piece, if I'm not mistaken, or on
Yeah,
the
the long version was 8 minutes.
yeah. So the long version
Yeah,
is 8 minutes,
yeah,
and I want to get into all of this,
sure.
but to know Seth, you have to understand his company and the name Diesel.
Yes.
I don't see Shaq when I'm interviewing him right now, but you have some ties to him, and that might have something to say for that name, right?
Yes, that's correct. Before I moved to LA, worked for the Miami Heat in their production department, and in after the 03-04 season. Why am I messing up? Yeah, after we drafted Dwayne Wade and had that great season with him and Lamar Odom, they won the first round against the Charlotte Hornets and had a great run. I was actually looking to leave the company, and I started looking around, putting out feelers, and then the bombshell hit, and the Heat traded for Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq Diesel. So I was like, man, they're going to get Shaq. A lot of controversy around that, how he got kind of jettisoned out of LA. And so once we made the big trade for Shaq, I was like, oh man, I got to stay one more year. I got to stay one more year and see what happens with Shaq. See if I get that ring.
Yes.
All team employees want to try to get that ring.
Yes.
So I stayed. So our opening introduction and welcoming for Shaq was having a tractor trailer, Shaq Diesel, drive down Biscayne Boulevard in front of the arena and welcome him. It was a big parade, a big event. He was in his prime at that time, and they're going to pair him up with Dwayne Wade. So it was going to be, it's a dynamic duo right there. And so with obviously my last name being Shapiro, my nickname throughout my whole life has been Shap. Hey Shap, what's going on? Hey Shap, this and that. So once we got Shaq Diesel, then everyone started calling me Shap Diesel. And because I would also do all the hype videos for Pat Riley, for Eric Spoelstra. Me and Spo were like really tight. So I would bring that Diesel energy, that Diesel fire. So people started calling me Shap Diesel. So fast forward, anyway, that was a great season. And, the Pistons took him out. But throughout that playoffs, I was able to build like an epic reel. I traveled that whole playoffs, Indiana, Detroit, everywhere, and build like an epic reel. That reel ended up getting me the job at NFL Network in Culver City out here in Los Angeles, running their promos department, managing their promos. So yeah, I mean, it was epic. So then fast forward 3 years from there, when I incorporated my company, I was like, what am I going to call my company? And I was like, oh, let me see if Diesel Films is available. And like crazy enough, there was all these other diesels with like actually gas companies, but Diesel Films was available. So I was able to incorporate that here in California. and there it goes. The funny thing is that a lot of people in California in LA, they don't know me as Diesel, so they're like, Diesel Films, what's that? But a lot of people have kind of like, it's been so long that they've kind of incorporated and ingratiated me into that name. So a lot of people just call me Diesel.
Has anybody ever called you up looking for Diesel, like actual Diesel? Have you ever had like
Like
somebody?
Diesel Gas.
Yeah, just getting
I've
confused.
I've never had that. I mean, you
No.
do get a lot of spam on the internet and a lot
Yeah.
of weird, people, writing into your blogs and stuff like that. But I don't think I've ever gotten a request for diesel fuel. But an interesting part of the Shaq story was that when we were doing our intro video, because every year for the NBA, you always do like a big intro video,
Mhm.
and we were shooting like this workout concept with him, and he was like training. It was Dwayne Wade, him, Udonis, all them boys, and Shaq was like, "Hey, I got an idea. I got an idea for the intro video." And I was like, "What's that?" He was like, "All right, here it is. I'm sitting at my desk in LA, and I'm in this big leather chair, and Jerry Buss comes from behind me and stabs me in the back with a knife." It was crazy. And he's
Oh
like,
my.
stabs me in the back with a knife, and I fall. And as I fall through the ground, I fall into the ocean, and I become like a shark, like a Shack shark. So
Yeah.
the Shack shark, or is it a whale? I don't know, Shack shark, whale, whatever. It was swimming through to the Atlantic Ocean. Mickey Arison, who's the CEO, the owner of the Miami Heat, and the CEO of Carnival Cruise Lines, notices Shaq. It was like, "Hey, what's that in the water? What's that in the water?"
Yeah.
And then Shaq explodes out of the water, and then Mickey Arison takes him and brings him into Miami, and that was his concept. He wanted to do like an animated concept for that intro video, which was obviously super creative idea. Probably would never happen.
I was gonna,
Too controversial, but it was crazy because he was like, Jerry stabbed me in the back. So it was
sounds like
interesting.
yeah, it sounds like an Academy Award winning piece right there.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
were behind this NFL Network piece that has gotten a whole lot of traction. Steve Weish was there with you and others putting this
Yep.
together. And basically, the genesis of it was the NFL training camps are about to start. Guys are about to report across the country to their teams. And we're also curious from the outside what's different about how things are handled inside those buildings just to try to be as safe as possible. And with so much limited to who can go in, for anybody that is a reporter or works in media like yourself, it is an incredible opportunity to go in there, and you did. And I want to ask you before we get into the timeline of what you were able to experience and what you were able to learn and the whole production aspect of stuff going into the Rams facility, what was your initial reaction when you got this assignment and that you were told that you were going to be a part of this?
Well, we got a call about a week earlier. We're a trusted vendor for the NFL, so we'll do a lot of their productions, especially here on the West Coast. So we got a call a week earlier saying, "Hey, there's a possible shoot with the Rams about COVID-19 prep, and we're just kind of figuring things out, and we'll see what happens." So at that time, of course, I started putting the crew together. We worked pretty small. It was going to be, they didn't want a lot of people, obviously, anyway, but it was going to be a 5-man
Yeah.
crew, including myself. So kind of put the crew together. Everyone's pretty anxious to work, especially, camera guys, audio guys. Everyone's, trying to get back into it. We've been lucky
Mhm.
enough to do a lot of post-production, so we've been able to
Sure.
do that. So you got the call. We got the call about a week in advance. So I put the crew on hold, and things kind of delayed. Things kind of staggered, and we didn't hear anything till about Tuesday. So I got the call maybe on a Thursday, and then it went about 5 days. I didn't hear anything, and then all of a sudden on Tuesday it was like, "Hey, I think we're gonna do this on Wednesday," and then Wednesday ended up becoming Thursday.
Okay.
So normally in normal conditions, you might have a hard time holding the crew or might have to swap people in and out. But everyone's really understanding right now of what's going on, that everything is kind of tenuous. So everyone was cool without, having to cancel. So the shoot ended up happening on a Thursday. up in Thousand Oaks at the Rams facility. So yeah, so we weren't sure if it was going to happen or not. There's been obviously a lot of confusion and questions around what the NFL is going to do for COVID. So I was just as interested as anyone else to go up there and kind of see what they had laid out.
What did the Rams want you to abide by when you went into the facility? Obviously, you're wearing a mask and being cautious like that, but what were the rules that they wanted you and your crew to follow as you were documenting what was going on inside their buildings?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, obviously, we're all wearing masks, trying to social distance as best as possible. We all had our temperatures taken as entering the facility. I was able to pull into the facility. Most people parked outside. I was able to pull into the facility just because I had a lot of gear in my truck. But yeah, take our temperatures, wash our hands, wear our masks, and that was pretty much it. It wasn't. I think when you get into these bigger productions, everyone has to be tested, everyone has
Sure.
to be, things like that. But since things were there's so many moving parts with this, and it was moving fast, they were just kind of taking the base precautions with us and our crew.
When Steve Weish was leading the piece and you start out basically putting yourself into the mind of an actual player or a staffer and what they have to do as far as like a step-by-step process. They get to the facility and then all of these different protocols and rules that they have to pass before they can even get in the building. And so you're first off in this piece, you're looking at the pre-screening process and
Mhm.
what the players have to do before they get to the building. I was fascinated listening and watching this, Seth, about the whole wristband tracking device and what was
Yeah.
illuminating about that? Because it sounds like this is their way of trying to ensure contact tracing.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, from the whole process, I was just kind of blown away by everything. Just because you're talking about football, you're talking about a contact sport, you're talking about bro culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is changing the way football players have approached going to work. For the last 100 years.
Hmm.
6 feet apart. Um, Contact tracing with the motion, contact tracers, getting your temperature taken, sanitizing your hands, touchless facility, walk one way. So I mean, the whole thing was just kind of mind blowing. Um, but the tracking device, is pretty crazy. Will they all work? Um,
Sure.
I think it tracks within 6 feet. Is everyone going to be accountable? But you're talking about, hundreds, talking about 100 players, you're talking probably about 40, 50 staff, maybe even more, in the building, trying to be accountable. So it was pretty, it was eye opening. All of it to me was eye opening just because we're talking about, football, um, full contact sport.
Seth Shapiro joins us, executive producer with Diesel Films. He is the pioneer behind that. I'm Bryan Fenley. Speaking of eye opening, you get in the door. So your temperature is normal. They allow you and Steve and your crew to go inside now that you've passed that initial protocol. What was the biggest wow moment for you when you survey all of the different rooms and the locker room and the cafeteria and everything that you saw? What was the biggest wow moment to like, my goodness, they put a lot of thought into making this COVID-19 proof or as much as they can.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think all of it was a wow moment for me, just because the process of playing football is going to be totally
Yeah.
different, and that's just crazy. It's just not, football is not a sport meant to be socially distanced.
Yeah.
So for what they've done, they're trying their best they can to try to, keep the train on the tracks and keep the show alive. But I think it's going to be tough. For me, I'd probably say the locker room. First of all, they took the media room. What was the media room last year? Now that's like a rookie locker room, and the way it's just spaced out is so weird. Where you have like some lockers facing one way and some other lockers facing the other way. So they're just trying to remove as much social contact as possible. The second one was when you actually enter into the main players locker room, where you have Aaron Donald, where you have Jared Goff, where you have Robert Woods, where you have John Johnson, where it used to be all the quarterbacks would sit together, all the wide receivers would sit together, all the DBs would sit together, all the O linemen would sit together. Now they've purposely switched that all out, so a whole position isn't taken out by the disease. So it was pretty. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. I don't think that's something that the NFL wanted to publicize too much, as far as being that position. The whole position could be wiped out, but that's what they're trying to avoid by that. So you have Jared Goff next to John Johnson, next to Cooper Kupp, next to Jalen Ramsey. It's just spread out, and then there's a locker in between, an empty locker in between each other one.
Sure.
So that was pretty crazy. The helmets, the Rams helmets look pretty dope. They look really good, but they have the visor shield and then a mouth guard that is right now. I don't think it's mandatory that the players have to wear it, but I don't know. I mean, I think they put a lot of effort into doing what they've done, but like I said, football is just not a sport that's meant to be socially distanced.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do. And
Yeah,
piggybacking off the point where they don't keep position group guys together, the Seahawks were talking about how they're not going to have the backup quarterback in the same room as Russell Wilson, I think, ever, just for that very reason, to make sure that there's no threat of, if one has it, that another one doesn't pass it along, and that you have ample guys to field a team. You had
yeah,
Reggie Scott on this piece, and he's obviously the Rams vice president of sports medicine and performance, and he was kind of the one that was showing you around the place. How evident was it, Seth, when you got to listen to him speak and you hear about his knowledge, that this guy has a tremendous grasp over what's going on and what needs to be done to ensure as much safety as possible? Because everything that he said, it just felt like this guy had put hours and hours of dedication in trying to figure out a solution for everything.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, I was like, man, is Reggie getting any sleep? That's
Yeah,
kind of how I
exactly.
felt. You know what I mean? Because the work that's been going into this since March has just been astounding. What they've been trying to do, and a lot of it's been behind the scenes because the public hasn't known what the NFL is trying to do to try to make it happen. But Reggie, I think he's the head of all the NFL trainers. So he's been integral, working back with the NFL doctors, working back with the consultants, to try to figure out what are the best steps without going into a bubble of how can we keep the show alive? How can we keep football being played on Sunday? So I think they're trying to take their best steps to do it. Whether they can or not, that's going to be the question.
From a production standpoint, this is the other angle I'm fascinated about, is because you're working with Steve Weish, reporting, asking the questions, and you're keeping an eye on the whole product here and the shoot and where to film from in the audio and all of this. What's the behind the scenes dialogue and conversations like between you and Steve, just to coordinate, okay, here's what we're going to do next, here's what I want to say, here's how you should film it?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into it, we had, I drew up a plan. He's super easy to work with, great journalist, super experienced. So he's down basically for whatever, but he obviously wants it to be great as well. So he's going to give his input. And then we try to do it, we try to do everything as naturally as possible. But a lot of times I'll be like, oh, can you stop? And it looks natural, but I'll be like, can you stop? Do that again. Do this again. Let's move
Yeah, yeah,
cameras,
yeah.
from behind you and stuff like that. So
Sure.
there's a lot of stuff that you don't see behind the scenes that starting, stopping, moving people around. Oh, can we do that take again? Oh, let's get it tight on the hydrostatic cleaner. Let's do that. So it's a little bit, even though it's unscripted, we
Yeah.
try to kind of dial it in as much as possible. So that's some of the stuff that you don't really see behind the scenes. So yeah, that was interesting. I mean, the other thing is that we shot that night. We shot Thursday night, and we had to put a small piece together for Good Morning Football on Friday
Oh,
morning. So
wow.
after we got home, My DP, who actually edited the piece, he went straight home, started loading the footage, syncing the footage. I already picked out, I like that locker room bit, what we talked about with the players distancing and having the position group separate. So I knew that bit was going to go. Um, so I told them to pull that bite out, and then we had worked a little bit more to just give them some like B-roll to use, on Friday morning, which they go on the air at 4 a.m. I think in the West Coast.
Yeah.
I think it's 7 a.m. in the East Coast. Yeah. So it was a quick turn, but that's what we specialize in. That's what we're good at. So
I was
we put a small piece on Friday morning, Good Morning Football, and that stuff kind of ran all day on NFL Network. And then the big piece we crushed all over, over the whole weekend, and that aired Monday morning on Good Morning Football.
By the time you're back in studio and you are putting all of the film into the computer, ready to edit, from that point, how long does it take you to finish what was the longer version of your story, 8 minutes, with all the different like post-production aspects that you have to take?
So that one, I mean, we finished on Sunday
Okay.
to deliver to New York. They're out in New York, Good Morning Football. So we finished on Sunday. But we were working pretty hard, to crank that out, working back also with the league to make sure the messaging is appropriate. There were some things that were said during the interview that actually had already changed by Sunday
Sure.
night, so it's just such a moving target that
Yeah.
things are changing. So we delivered around 5 o'clock our time, in LA Pacific time, to Good Morning Football. And then the long version, pretty much the same thing as well. And that got slotted up. So everyone was working on Sunday. Everyone was working over the weekend, working back with the league on the messaging. The other thing was Sanjay Gupta was doing a piece, from CNN fame. He was
Yeah.
doing a piece with the Falcons. So we were, even though it's sort of set up by the league as well, we were coherent of that. So we wanted to make sure our stuff was kind of coming out first.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why we came, we hit them on Friday, and then we hit the main piece on Monday, on Good Morning Football is where it debuted. And then Steve reacted to it, with those guys,
Yeah.
the Good Morning Football talent. The crazy thing about that, sorry if I got ahead, but the crazy thing about
No, it's
that
good.
was right as they were introing the piece,
Yeah.
the Marlins news came out, about half their team, coming down with COVID. So as that started hitting Twitter, I even think Peter Schrager, referenced it on the show, was like, "Oh man, I just saw this Marlins news, but here we're going to show what the NFL is doing to combat
Yeah.
COVID-19." So it was pretty crazy, and obviously, football being much more of a violent, close contact sport than baseball, obviously everyone has their skepticism.
Seth, so your piece, when you went to the cafeteria, what's different about what it's going to look like for players as opposed to years past?
Yeah, I think Reggie described it as an in-house grub hub. So basically, the players are going to have an app. They can order their food off the app, and the nutrition staff will actually bring them their food, in packages. And I think they're actually going to eat outside. They set up a huge tent next to the practice fields, where they're going to do team meetings. I think they're going to eat out there. A bunch of team functions out there to try to use the outdoor space. And I think that's the way they're going to handle it. So long gone are the days of the buffets and the guys sitting around yucking it up. The other thing that was interesting was in the gym where you have
Yeah.
the protein shake section with the protein bars and stuff like that. Now it's pretty much empty, when it used to be, your protein bars, your Metrex, your, this, that, and the third. Like, that's empty now. All that stuff has to be ordered as well. So
Hmm.
it was interesting. The water bottles now are all the Gatorade bottles are all numbered, so everyone has their individual, bottles. Where before you
Oh.
would just like, pick up water and drink it, and do all that stuff. So the whole concept of football is being turned on its head, and it's going to be, it's interesting, because everything, is changed, and everything's going to be slowed down, and there's just so much to get in. How is this really going to impact the game? And will the game really be able to continue, under these COVID-19 precautions?
There was only so much you could squeeze into that 8-minute piece. What did you film that you just did not have time to include that also stuck out to you when you were going through the Rams facility?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I try to emphasize what looked the best and what was kind of the most interesting. Um, the sauna room was interesting. The saunas
Oh,
are closed. Like I said, that big tent area next to the
yeah.
field wasn't there. It was only there during the NFC Championship game a couple years ago, for the media. Now that's going to be used for team meetings and stuff like that. So everything. The other interesting thing is all the hallways, even on the staff side, so on the coaches side, Sean McVay, Les Snead, and those guys, all the hallways are one way.
Ooh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah, so they've created these one way hallways. So hopefully people adhere to those, so people don't cross each other. All the doors have become touchless, so you can open
Sure.
them on touchless entry. I mean, they've put a lot of thought. They've definitely probably put a lot of money, into trying to create this environment. And I think there's guarded optimism that it could work, but I think the numbers are stacked against them.
Yeah, I just think that if one word comes to mind, it's being a little bit flexible and realizing that this is not going to be normal this year as far as this season. And if something comes up, hopefully we can maneuver around it, give it some time, and see how we can make the best of the situation. That's how I look at it. And you,
Definitely.
whatever you do, you are always making the best of a situation, whatever gig and opportunity you have with your company. I'm fascinated to know what you're doing with Vice.
Well, that's a funny one. So Carrie Champion and I have been good friends for a long time. We used to go back. Our days date back to the Tennis Channel before she went to ESPN. Actually, I helped her. I remember put together her Tennis Channel reel.
Oh,
That
wow.
ended up getting her the job on First Take at ESPN between Stephen A. and Skip. So we've had a relationship for a long time. So last year, unbeknownst to me, she was kind of on her way out of ESPN. I didn't quite know that. So she wanted to kind of start to film her own interview show. So I was like, okay, let's shoot a pilot then, And then the first person that we shot with was Jamel Hill,
Sure.
who's her good friend and obviously very interesting person and awesome, to have on camera and all that. Um, so we actually filmed the pilot of her interview show with Jamel, and when I took that footage back to the edit bay, it was like magic. I was like, I go, forget about an interview show, because sometimes with an interview show you can't quality control who your guests are going to be and how good
Yeah,
they're going to be, but you have magic right here between Jamel Hill and Carrie Champion. I mean,
sure.
it's just amazing. There's a great dichotomy there. Jamel's from Detroit, Carrie's from LA. There's just a lot of unique kind of differences to them, as well as similarities. Being two prominent Black females in the world of sports and entertainment and now politics and all that other stuff. So I was like, this is the show right here. So it was so I sold Carrie on that. I said, forget about the interview show. Let's do a show with Jamel. And she was like, well, Jamel's just so busy with her podcast. She's doing another one with Van Lathan. She's writing a book, which she just finished. So Jamel was just super busy to kind of be able
Sure.
to take on anything else. So once COVID hit, they started doing Instagram lives together.
Oh,
And once people saw that chemistry between them on Instagram Live, Vice kind of went. I was trying to push the show
yeah,
since basically November.
sure.
Vice, but we never really had the blessing of Jamel to really sell that show. Even though I was trying to use my agents at Octagon to possibly sell it, and everyone loved the tape. The tape is phenomenal.
Sure.
Those two have been together. It's magic. So once they started doing IG lives together, obviously everyone realized that, and then Vice kind of came through the back door in another outlet
Oh,
through Jamel, and picked that show up. I think it's going to be an eight episode run. Luckily, we were able to shoot the promo for them for the launch for New Front, so that was cool. And then we'll see how else we'll be involved. I love Carrie; she's great. Jamel's fantastic. So it's going to be a great show. So it was one of those unfortunate kind of things where I've been pushing it for like the whole year, and then it kind of went over my head
Sure.
a little bit. But under the circumstances, it's, that's kind of sometimes what happens. And
Anything you have your fingerprints on is great, is greatness. And how cool it is to get to know you, see what you're doing, Seth. And I can't wait as we slowly get stuff back roaring again. People need to understand Seth Shapiro is at the top as far as creating compelling sports content. He has the talent to supersede all. And I don't know how I got him on this podcast. He was he's got a family,
man,
he's got things to
incredible.
do. So it's been fun, man. And
I need you next to me. I need you with me all the time.
oh,
I need that gas up all the time.
well, dude, I'm always here.
No,
And
you've
I'm
been the man. I remember you came to the office. That was a good
yes.
time.
And that was
Yeah,
before
right
the
next to Fox
apocalypse.
Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right
Do
next to
you
Fox Radio there.
have you been working mostly from home at this point, or have you been able to
Yeah,
kind of
we
get back?
have. It was unfortunate because everything had gone away. We had a bunch of stuff going on in the NFL draft. We were supposed to do an esports event in Arlington, Texas, with Apex Legends. I was supposed to do a polo event, I think, in Wellington, Florida. So
Oh,
obviously all that went away. So I was just getting ready to like lay off everybody, and it was bad, and everyone, have everyone collect unemployment.
yeah.
Luckily, shortly after that, about the next week when I was gonna have to lay everyone off, EA, one of our clients, called and was like, "Hey, we're gonna be doing a bunch of online tournaments, so we need a ton of help."
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been pretty crazy.
Oh,
So I've been literally interviewing gamers across the world, from Russia to the UK, here in the States to Mexico, for all these different player profiles that we've been doing for FIFA and also Apex Legends. So it's been pretty cool, to be connected that way.
I want to ask you about that. How, from somebody that's a casual traditional sports fan, and as far as even you and how you cover traditional sports teams and events, how is this different? How have you had to evolve the way you cover something because of this video game world that has so much as far as money making opportunities because it's compelling content?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'll say is that, you know, I didn't know too much about. We've done stuff in the industry, but a lot of it's promotion and marketing. So I never really had to dig too deep and meet the players and things like that. But to learn these guys, the time that these gamers put into their craft, I mean, is impressive. I mean, to play a video game 10 hours a day on a professional level is like, that's no joke. Like, I
Yeah.
remember playing after like a couple hours, you'd be like, oh man, I'm done.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, these guys are grinding hard, and I don't think they're making a ton of money, but they're making a living out of it. So I've come to respect that. And I mean, the craziness is, yeah, now obviously we don't have the big production sets and the big cameras and that sort of thing. So we're doing things, via their webcams, via phones, via ways like this, Zoom,
Hmm.
Discord. A lot of it's over Discord, which is more of a gaming communication platform. So I'm kind of lucky in that sense because these guys are pretty tech savvy, so they know how to, record, upload footage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So just getting to know, people from Sweden, from Russia, um, Complexity, who's owned by the Cowboys. I
Oh,
interviewed a guy from
wow.
there yesterday. Yeah, their gaming facility is right at the Star, in Frisco, at their
Oh,
practice facility.
wow.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing. So that kid, he was like homeless at one point, and now he's like a big gamer for Complexity. So they have interesting stories, and we're telling them in a different way. And it's been fun. Besides the kids, trying to keep the kids out of the interview, but it's been a good
Sure.
time. Yeah, it's been interesting, and it's been nice to work from home.
Yeah. And you've got your
Yeah.
family with you. You guys are hanging in there. You're staying safe and trying to, hunker down as best as possible.
Yeah, that's been tough because my wife works for Disney Channel, so she's as busy as ever. She's in marketing for Disney Channel, so they're trying to figure out, how to keep the show on the road and the
Yeah.
train on the track, so to speak. So she's as busy as ever. I've been pretty busy, so it's just trying to keep the kids engaged. You know, what can we do for them to?
Well, whenever stuff starts rolling again, you're going to be so busy that you're not even going to remember who I am because once
No, you're the man.
it's,
You and Ben Mahler. You and Ben Mahler.
oh my God, we have fun, man.
2
We have
a.m. baby. 2 a.m. on the Jersey Turnpike. You tune into some Ben Mahler.
oh my gosh. He and I will get into it. We will spar, and I think it's pretty good radio, and I think he
Yeah,
enjoys it
he
too.
goes way back. I remember like late nights on the East Coast. I listen to
Yes,
Ben Mahler. Yeah, I remember that. He goes
he,
way back.
he does.
Yeah.
He's so talented as you are, and Seth, thanks so much for doing this, and I'm really enjoying it from the perspective of like your production mindset, but then also people learn about how you cover sports these days with COVID-19 in mind. And then from the casual NFL fan who wants to know, because they'll never be able to go inside one, what an NFL team facility is like. And,
Yeah.
you are exclusive property to be able to go inside one, that they entrusted you to do that. That says a lot about you and obviously the work you do. Where's the best place for people to look at where and what you've done and get a bigger grasp of everything that you have had your resume involved in?
I'd go to our website, dieselfilmsinc.com. You can check out our Instagram. During everything that was going on, we kind of chilled a little bit on
Sure.
social, but everything, you can scroll back, thousands of posts and kind of see what we've done. So at Diesel Films on Instagram, and then dieselfilmsinc.com
Awesome.
on the web. Yeah. And hit me up on Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever.
Yeah, Seth_Shap, also known
Yeah.
as Diesel. Seth, thank you so much.
Nah, I appreciate it,
Yeah.
man.